Hello everyone, a warm welcome to all of you who joined us for today's webinar. My name is Hemandas and I'm a research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. I'm thrilled to be presenting this webinar. SARIM advocates for methods that reduce lethal prejudice, eradicate unjust practices, and empower minorities. SARIM is a non-profit organization that aims to end hatred, violence, and intolerance. The Institute's purpose is to highlight the blight and discrimination faced by marginalized communities of the minorities. Today we'll talk about the emergence of socio-political menace against minorities in South Asia. As we may be aware of, untouchable vices has developed in South Asia through the decades, questioning prevailing social, economic, and political and cultural concerns. Minorities discrimination is what's most serious human rights concerns to be affecting about 260 million people worldwide. People on the edges of society experience discrimination in many areas of life, resulting in violations of many fundamental human rights, including legal, social, political, and other concerns. Moving forward, we have an incredible panel of speakers. Let me give you a quick rundown who they are. Dr. Abhay Kumar from India, Mr. Mohan Rabidas from Bangladesh, Ms. Sumitra Magrati from Nepal, Mr. M.D. Asif from India, Ms. Vijeta Kumari from India, and last, Imran Masih from Pakistan. So without further any ado, I would like to invite Dr. Abhay Kumar, who is a writer, journalist, and activist. He's a regular contributor to the newspaper and web portals. He writes around the board of themes of Indian Muslim and social justice. He has done his PhD thesis at the Center of Historical Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India. I would like to invite you, Dr. Abhay Kumar. Thank you very much for joining us today. Over to you.
So we speak on the very important and crucial issue on the questions of minorities in South Asia. Since I'm located in Delhi, New Delhi, so I will be mostly talking about how the minorities are doing and what kind of challenges they are facing in India. Friends, minorities in India are generally known as Indian Muslims, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Parsis, and sometimes there is a confusion that minorities are always a religious group, but that is not the case. Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, who was a pioneer in making and drafting of the Indian constitutions, and he's also a great activist and fighter for the social justice. He has basically said that the basis of minority, who is minority, is not religion. It is deprivation. It is some kind of what should I say, exclusion. So if you take exclusion, if you take discrimination, then minorities are also Dalits, who are ex-untouchables, also Adivasis, who are generally in social sciences known as tribals, but they would not like themselves to be called tribals. They want themselves to be known as Adivasi. And also, if you go by Ambedkar's definitions, any social group which is disempowered, which is excluded, which is marginalized, which is discriminated, they are all minorities. So in India, minorities can become majority if you take Ambedkar's definitions, because majority of the people are discriminated. They are facing all kinds of discrimination. And what has happened that the right-wing regime, which has come to power in 2014, after that, attacks on minorities have increased. I would not say that after 1947 things were very great and minorities were living in heaven before the rise of Hindutva forces in India. It was not like that. If you read history, you will find that several riots, communal riots, in which Muslims were targeted primarily, were carried out under the under secular regime. So secular parties are also responsible for backwardness and attacks on Muslims. But there is a very what should I say qualitative change after 2014 when Hindutva forces are enjoying great majority and they are winning elections one after another. Opponents have also questioned the methods of Hindutva forces during electoral campaigns, but I will not go into that. The fact of the matter is that Hindutva forces are winning elections and they are very successful and they have ruled in the states of Jammu and Kashmir, which is in the northern area, and from that they have gone to south to Karnataka, and from Gujarat in the western India to northeast, several states of northeast they are ruling. They have won the elections. So earlier we used to be told by the scholars that Hindutva forces are mainly confined to upper caste, Brahmins and the Banyas, and it is basically North Indian party and maybe Western Indian party, but it is not like that. It has increased its base. So now the question is, why is the base of Hindutva party is increasing? There are multiple reasons for them. One of them is that secular parties have failed and secular parties have very little, what should I say, determination to fight against against injustice. So they are living in some kind of, what should I say, inaction, the state of inaction. Apart from that, corporate sectors are also giving so much money to this government, the Hindutva regime. And Hindutva regime were earlier opposed to, let's say, capitalism. As far as its theory is concerned, it was basically earlier talking about Swadeshi. But now it has also changed its policy and it has become the biggest supporter of neoliberalism and capitalism. And that is why it is getting huge amount of money, and that money is creating impact in the electoral field. But what is related to the minority question is its agenda against minorities, lower caste, particularly against Muslims. So what is happening that Hindutva forces have made Muslim as a main target of its campaign, and it has come to believe that anything which is projected as anti-Muslim will be very successful as far as the Hindutva forces are concerned, because it has been able to create majority and minority. The majority is not based on the political dimension. This majority is based on communal dimensions, and minority is again based on communal dimensions. So what is happening that Hindus will vote for the Hindu parties and Muslims will vote for the Muslim party. But there is no Muslim party in India. There is no Muslims party. So what Hindutva forces have done through their agenda, that they have identified themselves with the Hindu groups, and all those who believe in secularism, all those believe in left politics, all those believe in minority rights, they are associated with Muslims and Islam. So Congress party, parties related to social justice, left parties, some parties which have got Muslim as leaders, they are all branded as the Muslim party, and Hindus and BJP are now projected as Hindu party. So this is the narrative. To keep that narrative, what is happening, that the Hindutva forces have got, what should we say, calendar. It has got a calendar, and it has got not one issue, or two issue, and three issues, and four or five or six and seven. It has got hundreds and thousands of issues. There is no dearth of issue. Every day, with the help of the media, with the help of its IT cell, on which it is spending crores and lakhs, while it has no money to spend on, what should I say, social sector. So the money which is meant for the social sector, the money which is meant for doing welfare of the poor people, that money is being misused, and the fund is being relocated towards management, towards advertisement, towards propaganda, towards running IT cell, which has got hundreds of employees, and they can make what Macbeth has said. Sorry, what Shakespeare has said in Macbeth: fair is foul and foul is fair. They can make galat ko sahi or galat or galat ko sahi. Right can become wrong and wrong can become right. This is the power, the propaganda of the Hindutva forces. And what is happening, that with the help of the media, which is completely sold out. I think 90% of Indian media are sold out. Only 5 to 10% media which are alternative, which are facing difficulty of what the funds, they are somehow bringing alternative narrative, but they are very, very weak. The powerful media is working for the Hindutva forces, then the IT cell, then its own RSS and other organizations, they have all come together and they can say day, they can make day appear a night, and they can change night into day. So they have got so much power, and I'll give you 3 examples and then I'll stop it. The first example is hijab issue. You might have heard about the hijab issue recently. Muslims women were going to school in hijab. Many Muslims were going to hijab. Many Muslims were not going to hijab. Hijab is not put up by every Muslim. Some Muslims women wear it, some Muslims don't wear it. But under Islamophobic discourse, the Hindutva forces are able to project that all Muslims women are wearing hijab, and hijab is against public order, hijab is against law and order, and suddenly that issue was created, and women were denied entering school. I am also a teacher. I teach at Delhi University, and in my school, some girls come in hijab. I have no problem. I don't know. Can any honest teacher say that wearing hijab is a problem? It cannot. It can never be a problem. Now the hijab issues were created, and the High Court has also given unfortunate decision, and it has not said that government is wrong, because in multicultural society, a state has no business to tell any individual that what you want to wear, what you want to eat, what religion you want to follow, whether you want to follow religion or not. And even Indian constitution is secular, which says that a state cannot discriminate anybody on the basis of religion. So hijab issues were there and Muslims were targeted. When the hijab issues started to die down, then there is Ram Navami procession. Ram Navami is celebrated by the Hindus, and common Hindus do not believe in taking arms, taking sword, taking weapons, and going through Muslims' areas and shouting and abusing Muslims and throwing, pelting stones at Muslims' religious place. A common Hindu has no business. I have seen in my childhood how Ram Navami was celebrated. We used to go to Mela, the fair. We used to drink sharbat, and we come back with some toys. We were never told that go to this Muslim area and then play loudspeaker there, then throw a stone there, and then tell the Muslims that Muslims are bad, they're anti-national, and then the Hindutva forces are hurling abuses on them that I cannot repeat here. So this is also happening. The police, the administration, instead of checking those anti-social elements, they are either silent or they are arresting Muslims. Muslims are victims of those processions, but police is arresting Muslims, and with the help of the media, the narrative is being constructed that, oh, look at these Muslims. They have become threat to civil society. They, being a minority, they are not allowing majority community to take out their procession. And such narrative is being built up that, okay, if Hindus are not allowed to take Ram Navami procession in India, will they go to Pakistan to do it? So it is also very wrong to associate Indian Muslims with Pakistan. No, Pakistani Hindus are Pakistani first. Similarly, Indian Muslims are Indian first. So they are Indian citizens. That is why to say that one group, that minority is not loyal, not true citizen, is also unthinkable. Now, when the Ram issues was there, several Muslims were arrested, and now there is also one interesting phenomena which is developing in India. It is called bulldozer politics. You can it bulldozer politics, or you can say it bulldozer republic. What is this bulldozer republic means? That the government is using bulldozer to demolish the houses of Muslims. Anybody who is seen as protesting against government policies, or anybody which police thinks that they are anti-social elements, they can be caught, and next day the police will go to demolish their houses. The police and the civic authority will give you thousands of explanations that it has nothing to do with the cases, it has nothing to do with anti-minority agenda. They will say they are following laws. But is this law that today police will arrest me, and now tomorrow they will go to demolish my house? If my house is illegal, then my house would have been demolished much earlier. Why it is being demolished a day after my arrest? So even the rule of the law, which is the foundation of the Indian Constitution, which is being violated, and the situation is very bad. But one thing I want to tell my friends, that the things are not very gloomy. A woman belonging to Communist Party of India, Communist Party of India, Marxist, Comrade Brinda Karat, went to Jahangir Puri in New Delhi, and she has said that you cannot demolish the houses of Muslims, and she played very crucial role in stopping it. And also the Supreme Court has also issued one directive saying that that immediate demolition of the houses should stop. So there is also some ray of hope. I am not saying that things are 100% gloomy. People like Brinda Karat, people like other secular and social justice and left activists, and also some good people in media, some good people in judiciary, some good people in academics. These people are coming together and opposing these policies. I have told what is happening in my country, and I have candidly expressed my view. And I must say that we Indians are in full solidarity with minorities of this country. I, belonging to majority community, 100% believe that if minority is not protected, then there cannot be any democracy. Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar has said very important thing in his essays, States and Minorities, written in 1947, that it is natural that in democracy the government will be based on majority vote. But if minorities' interests are not protected, if they are not given effective representation, the word is effective representation, then democracy cannot survive. And minorities are not always the religious group. Minorities are also linguistic group. Minorities are also caste group. Minorities are also ethnic groups. So in my understanding, any social group which is discriminated, which is disempowered, they are minorities. And if minorities' interests are not protected, then democracy cannot flourish. It is very sad that this Hindutva government, just to remain in power, is using minorities as a villain, as a demon, to get support from the communal majority forces. I again, through your medium, appeal to all those people who are sitting in government that winning election and losing elections are very little things. The cultural ethos, the civilizational ethos, the social harmony in a society are much more important things. That is why the attacks on minorities should stop, and a state should treat everybody equally, irrespective of caste, gender, sex, religion, language. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Abhay Kumar, for voicing your opinion. Our next speaker is Ms. Sumitra Magrati. She was awarded with the Samsevak Award 2021 by the United Nations Nepal for the gender empowerment. Ms. Sumitra, please share your thoughts and experience with us. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Heman. Very first, I'd like to extend my thanks to SARIM for having me here today. Besides, I'm honored to be here today on the side of amazing panelists. Well, Nepal, including South Asia countries, is a vast majority of multi-religious, multi-ethnic state societies, which are presently witnessing accentuated, almost aggressive assertions of primordial identities. In South Asia, many countries are developing countries. This has been a particularly pervasive problem that has spawned a series of tension and conflict. The South Asian region, of course, is a veritable cauldron of conflicting ethnic and religious groups. And this obvious diversity has invariably enfeebled the nebulous civilization unity. Tragically, in one way or the other, almost all states of the region have the seriously afflicted by the vicious minority syndrome that has become such an unfortunate yet integral aspect of contemporary South Asia. I want to share about Nepal. Nepal is a land of minority, be it in terms of religion, ethnicity, caste, gender, sexual orientation, political opinion, or geography. Nepali women, in terms of the will of intersectional, are considered a minority in terms of Dalit women, Janjati women, and other unprivileged groups. And for centuries, only a small ruling clique enjoyed all rights and privilege, whilst the rest of Nepalese, including women, Dalit, Janjatis, Madhesis people from far west, and sexual and gender minorities live less privileged. And minorities women who are double disadvantaged have limited access to and control over resources and restricted in their mobility, and are often under threat of violence from male representative also. Deep-rooted structural inequalities and discriminatory gender stereotypes continue to limit women's full and equal participation in the social, economic, and political sphere. For example, in Council of Ministry of Nepal, only 60% are female. Out of 25 cabinet ministers, only 4 female ministers are there. In provincial level, there are only 8 females in 7 provinces. In judicial system, out of 29 chief justices, only 1 female has appointed so far. She was Susila Karki. And in High Court also, only 3 female judges were appointed so far out of 21 judges. Nepal now appear on track to recognize, all Nepali is equally with opportunities opening up for the marginalized minorities too. The promotion and protection of the rights of persons belonging to minorities, contribute to political and social stability and peace, which is noteworthy for development. And the development that fails to understand the particular situation and right of minorities can cause further marginalization of minorities, making the situation more vulnerable. For example, through denial of access to education, health and job, displacement and loss of land or discrimination. Hence the importance of defining the new constitution to campaign. Under the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, SHIDA, which Nepal ratified in 1991, gender-based violence in both public and private may be considered a form of gender violence in both public and private, which may be considered a form of gender-based violence. Recognizing the situation of communities such as sexual and gender minorities, Badi women, Badi women, people with disabilities, Janjati groups, and small religious groups in a collective dimensions. Compromises our ability to effectively challenge the historical, social, and political structures that enable the discrimination. Some issues should be highlighted as of general importance to the protection of minorities women, addressing land and properties issues, education. In terms of education, we can ensure an education system where everyone's gender, sexual orientation, physical condition, and religion, language, and culture should be respected. And gender issues, of course. Minority in Nepal, minority has led to economic, social, and political instability, migration, and insurgency too. Nepal alone accounts for hundreds of ethnic, linguistic, and religious groups within its border. These elements should be taken into consideration when defining the new constitution for federal Nepal. In summary, preventing discrimination, the vital for minorities is not sufficient. Minority rights, which extend beyond traditional understanding of anti-discrimination, address the issue of those who may not want to be treated the same as others, especially if that means losing their own identity and dignity. Moreover, in regard to plight of minority communities within South Asia region, violence against minorities is in essence about the state failure. That is the state's inability to protect minority groups from violence by private parties. This is an aspect of state failure given the policies which is unable to protect vulnerable minorities. And the law courts are unable to hold the perpetrators to account, thus failing in the state's foremost duty to protect. In this situation, state agencies are either overwhelmed by non-state actors or have weak capacity to protect the minority citizens to begin with. And yes, and about spreading awareness regarding human rights of minorities, minorities require special measures to ensure that they benefit from the same rights as the rest of the other population. Hence, minority rights serve to bring all members of society to a balanced enjoyment of their human rights. In this context, the promotion of equal opportunities at all levels in terms of central level, provincial level, and local level for people belonging to a national minority is particularly important, since it empowers communities and promotes the exercise of individual freedoms. Central to the rights of minorities are the promotion and protection of their identity. Promoting and protecting their identity prevents forced assimilation and the loss of cultures, religions, and language, the basis of richness of the world, and hence part of its heritage also. Minority rights are about ensuring respect for distinctive identities while ensuring that any differential treatment towards group or persons belonging to such groups doesn't mark discriminatory practices and yes, of course, policies also. Therefore, positive action is required to respect culture, religious, and linguistic diversity and acknowledge that minorities enrich society through different diversity. The participation of person belonging to minorities in public affairs and in all aspects of the political, economic, and cultural life of the country where they live is in fact the essential to preventing or preserving their identity and combating social exclusion. Mechanisms are required to ensure that the diversity of society with regard to a minority group is reflected in public institutions such as national parliament, the civil service sector, including the police and judiciary, and that person belonging to minorities are adequately represented, consulted, and have a voice in decision which affects them or the territories and the regions in which they live. Participation should be meaningful and not merely symbolic. And talking about enhancing social inclusion is important for a person's dignity, security, and opportunity to lead a better life. I would like to say some of the ways to enhance social inclusion. First, we need to believe that social inclusion is possible. And second, we need to identify the activities for which our youngster has a passion. Third, we need to identify and communicate with others the strengths, gifts, and the capacities of our youngster. Fourth, we need to create an action plan so that we can implement it properly to make an impact, create an impact. And last one is let our youngsters to do their own choosing. Besides, we can improve social exclusion also. For that, government, civil society, and donor can reduce or can play a pivotal role. A government can create legal, regulatory, and policy frameworks that promote social inclusion. They can ensure that excluded groups are equally benefited from public expenditure. For instance, through gender, social budget initiatives, and social protection and social transfers. About furthering the growth of marginalized people, what we need to do is empowerment of marginalized group should be project targeted at positively impacting the lives of marginalized group. For that, we can do 5 things. We need to start paying attention to what you say, what we say. Most people already know to avoid generalization and stereotypes. Second, we need to have willing to accept the correction. Third, we need to be intolerant of intolerance. Fourth, we need to seek out marginalized voices and perspectives. And last one, educate our own community. That is very critical. Talking about advocating the rights of minorities, central to the rights of minorities are the promotion and protection of their identity, promoting and protecting their identity, which will prevent forced assimilation and the loss of cultures, religions, and languages, the basis of the richness of the world. Talking about networking of the potential activists at international level, networks of activists, demanding a greater voice in global economic regimes, which raise interesting question about how to organize effective political action across geographical, cultural, ideological, and issue boundaries. The internet is implicated in the new global activism far beyond reducing the cost of communication or transcending the geographical and temporal barriers found in other communication media. Most importantly, as noted above, the internet uniquely facilitates the loosely structured networks and affinity ties of this brand of global politics. Thus, the ultimate dilemma of globalization movement with the internet as a backbone may be an incapacity to transmit some positive sense of its common cause to broader publics. Perhaps the problem of communicating common themes will be, mitigated somewhat by the rise of activist information organizations, which offers the convincing alternatives to mainstream news. To sum up, we aware and educated people from minorities group, as I also belong from Dalit community, as I have also suffered so many things since my childhood till now, and I'm fighting for my community. I have also done different campaign regarding caste-based discrimination and sexual exploitation. So we aware and educated people from minorities, Dalit, disadvantaged should create environment. We should educate the girl child to be the best version of themselves, so who can raise the voice for the voiceless. And we should empower Dalit women, gender and sexual minorities, Muslims, disadvantaged group, backward groups, and other minorities. Because there is also the fundamental rights about the right to education. So we can also follow that. Having said that, I'd like to conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sumitra, for sharing your experiences and thoughts. Now we would like to move to our next speaker, Mr. Mohan Rabidas. He's working as a Dalit right defender at Nagorik Udyog. Has been affiliated with the Bangladesh Dalit and Excluded Rights Movement, and he is currently working as an individual coordinator of Nagorik Udyog under Empowering Left Behind minority community to effectively participate in development process of Bangladesh. Please, Mr. Mohan, shed some light on this matter.
Thank you very much for inviting me in this informative and very important webinar. And here some known people also are participating, and it's my pleasure. And yes, definitely today's topic of discussion is very much important. Our Abhay ji and Sumitra ji also talked very crucial issues of Dalit and minority communities in their country's perspective, in India's perspective, in Nepal's perspective. In the aspect of Bangladesh regarding Dalit and minority community, it's known to you also. But today I am ready to share with you some important and informative issues, which is very much important to know or to share with you. And first of all, I like to share with you about our journey, our goal of minority communities. And then I like to share you how we, the youth of Bangladesh, working for the development or for the rights of Dalit community in Bangladesh, and how this Dalit human rights defender or the youth can play a great role in this socio-economic development of this region, of the South Asia region, in the greater perspective, world region. And first of all, I like to share about the Dalit and minority community of Bangladesh. You know that approximately 1.6 million Dalit people are working here, and most of Dalit people are involved in cleaning profession in the town areas, and some are involved in making shows, some are involved some other profession, and the major community, Dalit community, are also working in tea garden areas of Bangladesh. You know that there are 1.5 million tea workers in Bangladesh whose daily wages is very much low. I am also from a tea garden. I am also a tea garden boy, and you will be very much, it's my pleasure to inform you that from this Dalit community, from this 6.5 million Dalit community, I am only one who have graduated from a university, not from Dhaka University, from university. And from this tea community, I am even first boy who graduated himself from a university. Here, the education situation is very much worse. There is no any scope or situation or any opportunity for taking education. And another one is that we, the T community, the Dalit T community of Bangladesh, have no land right. We are landless people. You all know that 200 years ago, we all are migrated from India. I am migrated from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and some are from Madras, Tamil Nadu, some are from Jharkhand, some are from West Bengal. All the T community of Bangladesh, the Dalit T community, are migrated from different provinces of India. When we migrated, the situation of here was not so good. Our tea workers work hard and plant trees, and even after 200 years later, this tea community are suffering for their wages, suffering for their land rights, suffering for education, suffering for health, wealth, suffering from housing problem, lots of problems. There is problem. And but what we have to do, or what youth or can do for the solution of that problem. And yes, we the youth people are working here for the development of tea workers. Definitely, you can say we are working as a human rights defender. And the speech of our Abhay Kumar ji and the Sumitra ji touched me very much, because we have also such kind of pain, such kind of what is sharing with people. And SARIM has done that with very successfully, and we can share our views, share our opinion, and we are thinking about for organizing ourselves for to be united more. All the Dalit community, all the minority community, if we be united, then we can stand. And for that, this webinar is very much important. Today's what is learning thing, or what is sharing thing from Bangladesh regarding the Dalit community, and specifically in the aspect of socio and political arena, socio and political phenomena. First of all, the socio, if I can share the socio scenario, and if I share the socio condition of Dalit community and minority community in Bangladesh, we can say that here caste-based discrimination is till now existing. This caste-based discrimination, this caste system already diminishes us. Everywhere we found caste-based discrimination. We found this. There is the existence of the discrimination. And what are the discrimination? Some of our Dalit people yet now have no any access to mandir, to the public places, to hotel, and some other public places. The mainstream community think that in Bangladesh, I am thinking that the discrimination is within Hindu community is much more. Our mainstream community, like that, the Muslim and the majority community, who our people are discriminated by them also, but within Hindu community, within Hinduism, this discrimination is lot. Because in Hinduism, there are Brahmin, then Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudra, and we are the outcast. We are Nama Shudra, with the Dalit people. This upper class Brahmin or the upper class Hindu treated us as untouchable. If we go to mandir, then they didn't give us access for prayer. We have no any access in hotel, but in all everywhere this discrimination is not existing, but some of our places is existing, some of our districts, some of our upajilas is existing. And this is for that we raised our voice, and we recommend government for introducing the anti-discrimination law. And it is matter of pleasure to share with you that our demand already accepted in government, and government already drafted a law, anti-discrimination law, and which will be passed very soon. If this anti-discrimination law will be passed, then we can raise our voice very much. Because in this anti-discrimination law, there are some articles where we can claim our justice, where we can get justice, and we are waiting for the enactment of anti-discrimination law. And there are some other societal problems. Dalit people are not free everywhere, are not exercising their social rights, social justice, or social dignity. You know that the dignity matters. Dignity is very much important. If any person didn't get social dignity, samajik marjada, then he or she feel very painful situation. And if we tell about the political situation of Dalit and minority community of Bangladesh, you may see that in Bangladesh there are lots of problem in this aspect. In Bangladesh, the Dalit people are not politically empowered, and this is main cause for our suffering, for not getting our rights. Dalit people think that politics is a matter of the mainstream people. We, the Dalit people, we, the poor people, we, the marginalized people, are not capable for doing politics. For that, the political empowerment in Bangladesh of our community is not ensured here. Our Dalit people are not being chairman, being MPs. You know that in Bangladesh there are no any government representative like that, MPs, like that higher government officials from Dalit community. There are two reasons. One reason is that Dalit people are not willing to do politics because they are poor, they are minority, they are marginalized. If they do politics, then they will be tortured. They have to face menace and lots of things. And the another reason is that the mainstream people are not welcome us to do politics. They think that if they become empowered, then they will claim their rights and they will be they will hold a very big position in Bangladesh. But here our friends from Pakistan, from Nepal, from Bangladesh, from and hearing from other countries also. From as a Dalit boy of Bangladesh, I want to share that we have to be organized in terms of our South Asia region, in terms of all Asia region, or in terms of all worldwide. When we will be organized, then we can claim our justice, then we can work for our people a lot. And we have to be organized in such nationally and internationally also. And we must have to be involved in politics. Every Dalit community should involve in their major political parties, because unless or until being involved in politics, the situation of Dalit community never be changed. And we must have to be the part of politics. And the part of politics can be in two aspects. One is we have to you can organize, or you can form a political party in your country of Dalit community also. Or the second option is you have to be involved in the major political party of your country. It's my aspect. If we be involved in the political parties of every countries, respective countries, then our voice will be raised, and we can raise our voice in parliament. And you know that the parliament is the main place to discuss, to raise voice, to express our thought, to express our demand, everything. Unless or until we will reach our goal we reach in parliament, nothing will be happen. Because in the roadside, when we do organize movement in street, we become the sufferer of torturing. We have to go to jail. We have to arrest and lots of problems. This is very much difficult. Yes, we also have to do movements, social movement in such a manner, in such a aspect that we can't be assaulted or tortured, and we can take the path of our Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar also. What he said, what he want to teach us, and we have to follow him also in demanding our rights. Because the situation of world is very much worse. No, not only any respective country. I am thinking that everywhere there is a existence of Pujibadi, existence of capitalist, and our society become capitalist society or government. Every country's government, not any specific country, every government system of the world becoming in the system of capitalist. They are only focused, and they are only doing the well-being of capitalists. They are thinking that they should reserve the rights of capitalists. They are not thinking about the well-being of minority, of the Dalit community, and all worldwide. I am saying worldwide, because this Dalit minority, Shromojibi, workers class are very much privileged, very much worse situation everywhere. And for that, we have to raise our voice nationally, internationally. I like to welcome you all to form a social network, to form a social cooperation, to help each other, to help to demand our rights, to fulfill our rights, and to stay in a way which will ensure our justice, will ensure our social empowerment, will ensure our political and economic empowerment also. And I also want to recommend our government of all countries that we also want to be a development part of your government system, your development activities, unless or until empowering the Dalit and minority community, no country, no government, nothing will be succeed. The 100% success, the 100% development will be ensured when the pichle pada log, the minority communities, the Dalit community will be empowered. For that, we want to say government and other development entities that empower us, empower Dalit community, empower the minority community, take step, necessary initiative for the development of minority community. Then the development of specific countries, the development of the world will be ensured. And last of in the last comment, I like to thank all of you for hearing me. And it is my last speech, but not least speech. And I want to talk with you more. And next time, and we will also sit in such a webinar, or we can see physically, face to face also. Our cooperation, our networking will increase day by day. This is my hope. This is my dream. And thank you for hearing me. And thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. Sure, we would like to invite you in our upcoming webinars. And now I would like to pass this webinar over to my co-host. She will present the rest of the speaker. Over to you, Faiqa.
So to proceed further, I would like to invite Muhammad Asif Khan. He is an Indian Muslim activist from Maharashtra, India. Muhammad Asif is socio-political commentator and social media influencer who actively speak about Hindutva, hate crimes against Muslims, including mob lynching and Islamophobia. The floor is all yours, Muhammad Asif.
So thank you very much, Sarim, for inviting me again for speaking on this important subject which we are facing right now in India. The subject is the social political menace against Muslims in India. So, well, the situation is getting worse each and every day when, as a Muslim, when you wake up in the morning and check your mobile phone, so you get some kind of horrible link from any corner of India that a Muslim has been lynched or someone attacked by Hindu extremists, far-right extremists, and or a mosque has been attacked, or there was some kind of anti-Muslim riot happened in any corner of India, or you get such kind of news that Muslim women were not allowed inside the school or university or education institution because they were wearing hijab. So the situation is getting worse each and every day. And recently, I have been watching some international speakers. One of them was Mr. Gravely Stanton, who is director of Genocide Watch. He was the first person, among the first person who predicted Rwanda genocide in the 90s. So he had said recently, I was watching his videos, that India is going to the same way. India is on the verge of the genocide, the Indian Muslims genocide. And this is the pattern, actually. Anybody who has any kind of knowledge of the history, who had read something about the Holocaust in the Germany, or the pattern of the Bosnian genocide or the Rwanda genocide, they can see the threats which is before our eyes, that what happening in India right now with the Indian Muslim and other minorities. But Indian Muslim are the most vulnerable group of the minority communities in India. There are other minorities as well. The Christian are there, the Sikh are there, and they are also being attacked. The Dalits are there. They are also being attacked every damn day in India by the Hindu forces and the upper caste Hindu extremists. But the situation of Indian Muslim is severe in comparison of other. I don't want to compare the oppression of two different more than other groups, but the situation is really getting worse because the hatred and the persecution of the Muslims is sponsored by those people who are sitting in the power. This is very systematic and organized way. This is not some kind of isolated incident that happens here and there once in a way. This is everyday business, and this is sponsored by those people who are sitting in the power, whether the state government or the federal government of India. Narendra Modi himself is a member of the RSS, the same group which has been working against the Muslim since last 9 decades. Since the inception, it was built in 1925. They formed the RSS in 1925, and the founder of the RSS very much influenced by the fascist and Nazis of the era, Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. If you read the books written by the founder of the RSS, they glorified the Hitler, they eulogized the Hitler, and they say that the way Hitler had called Germany of its Semitic race, the Holocaust of the Jews, same model can be implemented in India, and they clearly said that the Muslim and the Christian and the communist are the biggest enemies of the Hindus. So this is in their psyche. Unfortunately, they were not in the power for last 9 decades, but they had ultimately come in the power in 2014, and they started working against the Muslim with the help of the whatever constitutional power they had in their hand. It's not that India was as Mr. Abhay Kumar had pointed out, that India was not heaven for the minority since 1947, but the situation was not that worse what we are seeing right now. The filth was already existed there. We have seen what happened in 2000 to Gujarat. We have seen what happened in 1992 when Babri was demolished against the order of the Supreme Court. But the filth had hit the fan in 2014 when Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister, and the RSS and other right-wing group got hold on the system of the democracy. Now they are sitting everywhere. The men are sitting everywhere. They are in the parliament, they are in the media, they are in the judiciary, they are in the law enforcement agencies. They are everywhere. And unfortunately, the majority of India, the Hindu society, has turned into a Nazi fascist society. There were people before 2014 who might have prejudices, the hatred against the Muslim. But the situation, the atmosphere, the political social milieu in that India was different, so that they were not able to express their hatred publicly. They used to talk about those kind of things behind the closed wall in their dining room, in their bedroom. Now they are going to mainstream media, sitting in the in the studio of the national channel, and they are spewing venom against the Muslims. Recently, some Hindu extremists went before in front of a mosque, and he announced from the loudspeaker that he would abduct and rape the Muslim women. So that's what we have come to now. Each and every day they are conducting so many Dharma Sansad, which is usually translated religious meet or religious parliament, where they are talking about repeating what happened in the Myanmar. So we have seen that Rohingyas were facing the genocide in Myanmar. They are saying the same model must be implemented in the India, where the weekend massacre, where we can mass killing of the Muslims. So the things are really getting worse and severe, and unfortunately, people, international community is still not able to see the reality. They are, I don't know whether, I think they are ignorant people or they are comfortable in their own life, that they do not care what's going on in third world country. But as a Muslim, it's my duty to tell the narration to the entire world that what's going on in India. So what is happening is genocide, and genocide is a long process. It doesn't happen overnight. It not happens. It starts with the violence. Violence is the last stage of the genocide. They said that Holocaust does not start with the gas chamber. It starts with the head speech. The gas chamber is the last process of the genocide. India has passed through so many stages, and we are about to reach the last stage where they would kill the Muslims, and they are doing it. They are doing it in a different small pocket, not on large scale, but they are doing it in a small pocket. So in that process, what happens? They attack on multiple fronts. They attack on your life. They attack on your dignity. They attack on your self-respect. They attack on your civil right, your human right, your democratic right. The purpose of those attacks from multiple fronts is that to disenfranchise you, weaken you as a community, so that you will be so vulnerable that you cannot resist, you cannot defend yourself anymore. This is the purpose. And to make you subhuman, to make you second-class citizen. And when you will be a subhuman, you will be in the category of a second-class citizen. It would be much easier for them to obliterate you. It would be much easier for them to wipe you out from the faces of earth, because nobody showed any kind of sympathy with third-class people, subhumans. So this is the process. This is the target, and this happening in a systematic way. I would explain that how it happens. If you have been watching and observing the Indian politics for last few years, what happened that they found new excuses every day or every month, every week, that how to target Muslims systematically. There is a social persecution of the Muslim. There is economic persecution of the Muslim. There is the political persecution of the Muslim. So they have invented different kind of theories, different kind of method to persecute Muslim in different way. For example, if I talk about the social persecution of the Muslim, so there is a propaganda, conspiracy theories which often float in the ecosystem of the Hindutva, like which push Muslim from the mainstream, push away Muslim from the mainstream society of India. Like this is the process of otherization of the Muslim. For example, they whatever associated with the Muslim identity, like the Muslims' faith, Muslims' clothes, Muslims' religious activities, anything which is associated with Muslim, even the language. For example, the Urdu. The Urdu is not the sole property of the Muslim, but it is being associated with this Muslim. So they attack everything, any identity which is associated with this Muslim, they will demonize their identity. So that they can put Muslim that like it is like they make feel them that they are not needed anymore. Their identity is not mainstream identity. Their identity is not needed in the new Hindu Rashtra. For example, the attack on the hijab. Recently, have you seen that whatever happened in the Karnataka and different part of the India, where Muslim women were not allowed inside the university and college because they were wearing hijab. But it did not happen overnight. It doesn't happen that someday they woke up and they started saying that Muslim will not be allowed here. It has been happening since many years, many months, in a very systematic way. Where first step is that they start a narrative on the social media and media, where they attack the Muslim, where they say that those Muslim who are wearing those Muslim women who are wearing the women or the hijab or the burqa, they are the repressive, they are the regressive, they are not not the people who should be welcomed in the first world country. They are the people who are still living in the Stone Age era. So this is how you demonize the people. This is how you dehumanize the people. You first attack their identity through a narrative. You create a perception. You create a perception through the social media and the media. And suddenly, when the few people who were, of course, were part of member of the Hindu right-wing group, so they have distributed a separate shawl to the Hindu students. They said, you wear that pagdi, you wear that shawl, and go to the school. And when the school authority objected that why are you wearing the separate shawl, you say that why Muslims are wearing the hijab? If they can wear the hijab, we have every right to wear the separate shawl, we have every right to wear the pagdi. So the purpose is to create a confrontation, a situation of the confrontation, a conflict. So this is how a conflict started. The Hindu student started appearing in the separate shawl and pagdi in the school. Now it was against the, of course, the uniform guidelines of the school. The hijab was not part of that guideline. But I mean, the Sikh can wear a turban, the Muslim can wear a hijab, and other minorities, they can practice their faith. It was a part of the faith, but they made it an issue. And suddenly the atmosphere, the situation became more volatile, and it reached to the violence, where violence happened. Then the matter has reached to the judiciary. Unfortunately, judiciary had delivered a verdict in favor of the people who are sitting in the power. So the discrimination against the Muslim would start with the narration by a fringe element on the social media or the mainstream media. The discrimination had been legitimized by the judiciary of the India. Now those women cannot sit in the university, in the classes, in the examination hall, because the discrimination has approved from the judiciary. Now the discrimination is legal and legitimate. The same is going on other aspects as well. When hijab issue has been done, there come another issue like azan, like the issues of the halal food. So now they are making a narrative that why the Muslim they say their azan, they recite their azan 5 times on their loudspeaker. Although azan lasts, it's just for 5 minutes. It doesn't last longer than 5 minutes. The Muslim can finish the azan within less than 5 minutes, but they are making an issue. So now what they are doing is they are installing the huge loudspeaker on their houses, on their temples, anywhere in the market. So whenever a Muslim recites the azan, they will play the loud music, the cacophonous music on the loudspeaker, so that the ultimately public will get irritated, and they will reach out to the court, and the court ultimately will ban the azan as well. The same is going on with the food habit of the Muslim, like halal food. So they are making a narrative. The halal food is nothing but a business model of the Muslim. Ultimately, they earn money from the halal food, and then same money goes to the terrorist organization. So the money has been used to terrorize the Muslim, terrorize the Hindus in the India, and the Muslims are the ones who are funding that money through their halal business. So this is how they are making a narrative against the Muslims. So like the hijab thing is hijab and azan, all things the form of the social persecution, the social oppression of the Muslim, where they would segregate the Muslim. Like there are many Muslims who had stopped going to the college now. They stopped going to the schools. They refused to sit in the exam. So this is the beginning of segregation, the beginning of the apartheid on social level. The Muslim will not sit in the colleges anymore. Meanwhile, there are things that like halal, the issues of the halal. There are many other, if you watch the right-wing media channels in India, they are running the agenda like the Muslim are indulged in the land jihad, economic jihad, naukri jihad, bureaucracy jihad. This such kind of narrative, the halal jihad, and they are the attack on the livelihood of the Muslim. This is economic persecution of the Muslim. So when they say that Muslim are the one who are running economic jihad, they accuse Muslim of running their own parallel economic, where they will deprive the Hindus of their money and their business, and they will acquire all kinds of economy. This is what they are running in their conspirational theory. So now they are attacking the Muslim in systematic way. recently in the Navratri, which is the Hindu festival, so many Muslims houses, so many Muslims business property were attacked. They attacked the Muslim meat sellers in the garb of saying that you cannot sell the meat during the month of during the period of the Hindu festival. So if the Hindu festival will be going on for 9 days, a Muslim meat seller will have to shut his shop. A Muslim hotel owner have to shut his hotel for 9 days. So for 9 days, how would he feed? How would he earn bread and butter for his family? So this is the economic persecution of the Muslim in a systematic way. Same thing goes for like the Naukri Jihad and as I said, the bureaucracy jihad. They are now running another propaganda through the mainstream media channel that Muslims are running an agenda to encourage the places in the bureaucracy. They are the one who are encouraging the places in the bureaucracy and other Sarkari government offices where they are appropriating the jobs and they are snatching away their jobs from the Hindu. Recently, Hansraj, I forgot the name of the entity. It is a government entity which has hired 11 Muslim candidates from Jamia Millia Islamia University. So some right-wing Hindu extremist anchor, they had run a propaganda and they almost protested against the in front of the office of that company which hired Muslims, 11 Muslim candidates from the Jamia Millia University, saying that you are running a Naukri Jihad, you are only hiring the Muslims. Although the claim was wrong, there were many other Hindu candidates who were hired, but the sole purpose is that they do not want to see the Muslim in any mainstream things, like they do not want to see the Muslim in media, do not want to see Muslim in the jobs, they do not want to see the Muslim in the politics, so that the Muslim can be one of the most vulnerable communities socially, politically, and economically as well. So they will not be able to resist when they unleash the violence against them. There are so many other things, like recently Dr. Abhay Kumar had said that there are bulldozer politics and there's the Ramnami. It is also part of that agenda actually. That how to engineer communal violence, communal riot. I won't call it riot because riot is always where the two sides are involved. I would call it so I was saying that these Ramnami and the bulldozer are also part of their strategy. I will explain just in a few minutes how. So these bulldozer and the Ramnami are also part of their strategy. I will explain how within 2-3 minutes. Whenever some kind of Hindu festival fall on their particular date, they have invented a new way to create communal tension, communal hatred. It has been since a long time, but it was not on that larger scale. Now they have power, nobody can stop them. So they are doing in larger scale across the India. So suppose that next month there would be any kind of Hindu festival, they would take out the procession across the India, holding the swords and the weapons in their hand, and the procession, the march will go through the Muslim majority area. They will deliberately stop in front of a mosque, and then they will play loud music which has a vulgar lyrics, genocidal lyrics. I cannot even say what kind of lyrics they use on the song. They will deliberately provoke the Muslim to retaliate. Then they will climb upon the minaret of the mosque and they will plant a saffron flag over there. So this is a tactic to provoke the Muslim. So what Muslim would do when their mosque will be attacked, when they will play such kind of provocative, vulgar genocide song in front of the mosque, definitely Muslim will retaliate in self-defense. When Muslim will retaliate, they with the help of the police will create such kind of atmosphere where the Muslim mosque will be attacked, then Muslim property will be burned down, Muslim houses will be attacked in a very systematic manner. So they created such a kind of situation when they can ignite a spark to burn down an entire city, and then Muslims' houses and their property will be attacked. So when their shops and property will be attacked, they will become more vulnerable in that situation. After that, it is the government who will declare the Muslim culprit in that situation without having any kind of court trial. So the case has not been filed in the court yet. There was no court process. The court has not convicted anyone in that case. The government already declared the Muslim or the culprit, so demolish their houses. So their property, their shops, their houses would be demolished by the government. They would use bulldozer for that person. And the law enforcement agency, the police, what they would do, they would also blame the Muslim and they would arrest the Muslim. The tens and hundreds of the Muslim would be arrested. Same kind of action will not be taken against those people who belong to the Hindutva lobby. They are the one who initiated that kind of, who have engineered whole propaganda, who engineered whole violence. Same action will not be taken against them. Their houses will not be bulldozed. Their shops will not be bulldozed. Nobody would take any kind of action against them. They will not be arrested under anti-terror law. But the Muslim will go through all kinds of trouble. So this is another tool where they use state machinery, government forces, law enforcement agencies to persecute Muslims. And Muslim will be more vulnerable because of this. Like recently, their violence happened in so many different parts of the India, where their houses were and their shops were burned in that violence. Then the state government had bulldozed their houses. What Muslims did in India, they started doing crowdfunding so that their houses can be rebuilt, their shops can be rebuilt. So you see that, you understand the vicious cycle. Muslims were already vulnerable, economic weak. So you attack their houses, your means of living, you attack their shops, and then a vulnerable community had to start crowdfunding to begin everything from the scratch. So this is a vicious cycle. They would demolish our means of living. Then we will start crowdfunding to start everything from the beginning, everything from the zero. So this vicious cycle, they will not allow us to flourish. They will not allow us to become more stronger on the economic perspective as well. And as far as the political persecution of the minorities concerned, you can see that how they are making policies from the parliament, which goes against the Indian democracy, the value of Indian constitution as well. Anti-CA protest was one of them. They are making the laws like NRC and CAA. They are making the laws like Triple Talaq bill. Then they are talking about the Uniform Civil Bill nowadays. Well, I am sure that soon they will elect some kind of anti-Muslim discriminatory policies from the assembly or from the parliament. So these all kind of things happening in India and happening with the help of the power who was sitting in the government, the federal government, the state government. I will just conclude my word in a few minutes. So I hope I was able to narrate the story of the Indian Muslim as much as I could, and I have the international community who are silently watching the situation. They would start raising the voice. They would start broadcasting whatever happening to India instead of falling for the PR agenda of the government or the establishment. Please talk to the victim. Please talk to the oppressed people. They would tell you, they would narrate their own story, and they will tell you reality of whatever is happening with them. Please do not fall for the propaganda of the government and establishment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Asif. This is very courageous of you to share such issues and about the persecution faced by Muslim minorities in India. And thank you so much once again. Moving towards our next speaker, Dr. Vijeta Kumar is currently working as a professor in the Department of English, St. Joseph College, India. She writes extensively about her attempts as a Dalit professor to break away from the Brahmanical construction of a teacher as a sacrosanct authority figure in a predominantly Savarni classroom, and how classrooms can be truly transformative if teaching is considered as humbling process or a conversation. We know her as a teacher and a writer who continuously highlights the inevitable failure of the existing dichotomy of rationality and emotionality in academia. Over to you, Dr. Vijeta.
Thank you. Thank you, Faiqa. I hope I'm audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Just a correction. I don't have my PhD yet. It's not doctor, it's Professor Vijeta Kumar. I don't have very much to say. I have very little to say. All of the esteemed panelists have covered the topic, the theme really well. So I won't take much of your time. I only have two things to say. One is the idea of the minority component in any country, any institution, any academia as just that, as minority and nothing more. And the way we see ourselves as minorities, as not really get to highlight the marginality of what being from the minority feels like. But it's not useful in that the more we see ourselves as minority, and that is a fact, we cannot change that, the less inclined we are to divert our energies elsewhere. And diverting our energies elsewhere is not possible because the resistance to the people of the minority as artists, as teachers, as doctors, as engineers, as so many of my panelists have pointed out, is just not acceptable. So the more we put in our energy in defining, we don't have the time to nourish our art or nourish our jobs or take care of our workplaces. It's almost as if we are all the time fighting and we're all the time resisting. And we're not so much fighting as we're protecting ourselves. And if all of the energy is going in protecting ourselves, there's actually very little time to do much else. This is the one aspect of minority literatures or minority representation at the classroom level or the institution level that I concern myself with. In the classroom, I find that a lot of the Dalit and Bahujan students find it difficult sometimes to figure out their own voices. And when I say figure out their own voices, I mean because there is so much shame and sometimes so much irritation and anger associated with their identity. It's very rare for them to devote their energies into art or things that they really like doing, because so much of it is devoted in protecting themselves. I hope we can create spaces for students of today's generation to accept their identity and to use these identities into propelling their futures. I don't have very much to say, so I'd like to just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijeta, for your participation. Now I would like to invite Imran Masih, a humanitarian and development aid worker working in this sector for more than 10 years. He has served in different international and national organizations over the years on different positions. Currently, he is serving as country representation for Diakonie, Katastrophenhilfe for the last 4 years. DKH is a German organization that provides humanitarian aid to people who are in great need worldwide. Currently, he is also pursuing PhD in International Relations from Namal University, Islamabad. His key area of PhD research is the integration of religious minorities into the state politics of Pakistan. Thank you for joining us, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Faiqa, and thank you, SARIM, for another opportunity providing me so I can share my point of view. Although the lot have already been discussed by different experts from different countries, and the issue that they share, it is almost similar that the minorities are facing in Pakistan, particularly related to, the Christians, Hindu, and Sikh, the religious minority. And over the last few decades, it has increased a lot since this Islamization happened in Pakistan, and then, the nationalization of the Christian Institute happened in 80s or 70s. So, like, the issues are almost similar. Like the communities, especially the religious minorities, are facing the discrimination, the exploitation in all forms of life, in employment, in education, in political participation, in societal life. So it's very hard to find a solution because we are struggling since the partition made, and the situation get more worse over the nation, because we already discussed the issues like what the minorities are facing, and South Asian region is like very connected, and they understand each other, but the issues are almost similar. So first, for the civil society, there's a major responsibility on the civil society, because they are the one who advocate for the human rights in the League of Nations, and there's a declaration in the United Nations to protect the rights and to defend the rights of all minorities, whatever religion, whatever race, whatever linguistic background they have. But unfortunately, that's only on the paper, and the real implementation wasn't very much in favor of the religious or other minority groups in South Asia, or particularly in Pakistan. In the Constitution, Pakistan, there's also confirmation by the Constitution that every person should have an equal right, equal participation. But despite of that, still the practical situation in the country is not, not very much favorable, and the people facing a lot of issues on daily basis in their life, like they have lack of opportunities in education, lack of opportunities in economic activities. So, for example, being a Christian, you cannot run a very good business. You cannot get a good environment to be an entrepreneur. And that's the reason the Christian communities prefer to stay in isolation, because they feel insecure when they live with the majority community. So they prefer to live in the outskirts or in the slum areas where they feel they are protected, being a joint, the people or the group who are living together. So Pakistan, facing a lot of issues, many issues in regard of political marginalization of minorities. The state is the main actor who can deal with such issues. If state won't take the issues up, then there's no way to resolve all the problems that minorities are facing. And the reason behind is there's a lack of political representation by the minorities in decision making of government. For example, in parliament or in the provincial assembly, you can hardly see the representation. You will see the representation through the reserved seats, but there's no real representation. So they are being selected by the political party, and they work like a puppet, and they don't talk against the legislation or against the government, because they were not elected by the people. So they were selected by the political party. So that should be changed. Like, the people should be elected by the people, so they can have a better voice in the parliament or in the legislation. So they can, they can raise their voice in the parliament. The parliament is the place where they can, bring a change, to make a change for their own people. And this very unfortunate, like, there's external issues challenged by the majority community of the state, but also there's a lot of internal challenges the communities are facing, the minorities. And one of them is, they are not very much united. So it's almost more than 70 years we got independence, and still we don't have any political party who represent religious minorities. Although it's not possible to have one particular religious minority to establish political party, but they can go, because they are all facing the same issues. So they can go with a collective political party and the collective representation in the parliament. That helps them to raise their voice against the issues that the communities or the minority people are facing. Then, some article referred that the non-Muslims cannot be the president. That's a great discrimination, in the democratic society. So it's a fundamental value of democracy to protect the rights, to give the freedom of speech, to give the freedom of expression, to give the freedom to profess the faith, the religion, and all these things. But, unfortunately, it's not happening in real terms in country. Secondly, we have a provincial system. We have 4 provinces, and there's a federal government. And after this 8th amendment, provinces are very much free to make legislation. So for me, I think so. The federal government should be monitoring to the legislation are making at the provincial level. And if there's something happen that downgrade the religious minority, then they should intervene by the federal government to rule over the legislation, so they can protect the rights of the minority. And as I mentioned earlier, the political participation is the only solution. The lack of political participation is the reason of all these issues, or all this marginalization that the minorities communities are facing. So if there's a political representation, the real political representation at the state level, then there will be a chances to lower down the issues, lower down the problems that the communities are facing. For example, the forced conversion, it's happening every day, and we heard the stories on every second day through social media, through electronic media, that there's some conversion, the forced conversion, and then they get married, and the small and the the minor girl that's happening, and then, the kidnapping, and also the people who are very much, the poor have a poor background, can't afford the legal aid, they can't afford the legal people to support them. So what they do, they make compromises on their lives and on their recognition in the national sense. At the national level, we don't have any representation. Being Christian community member, I always feel that we don't have a very authentic voice at the parliament or in the Senate. So that helps to to work on the issues that communities are facing. And then the decision-making process in the National Assembly is done by the majority committee, and the majority committee doesn't know the issues that the minority communities are facing. So if you have a minority people in the parliament who make the legislation, then it helps them to have an inclusive approach. The inclusive policy framework that caters everyone to be considered and to be part of the legislation. Like if somebody come from outside and don't know the issues on ground, so the person who is facing the issues, he should be listened, he should be, incorporated, his views should be incorporated in the policy. And then, the reserve seats in the parliament, that's true, that's happening, and that is acceptable because it is something in the international laws. If there's a minority, they should have some, the provision to get their representation. But again, there's a, when they call for the reserve seats in the parliament, and there's a conflict between the different communities. The Hindu, Christian, Sikh are the major religious minorities in Pakistan, and there's a conflict because there's no clarity who will be selected for this position or for this seat, reserve seat. So the government should make a very clear framework or very clear segregation. How many should be from the Christian community? How many should be from the Hindu community or Sikh community? Or even though there's other small minority groups that they won't get representation because they don't have much number. So their voices never been heard. So they should also get an opportunity when there's in the parliament, in the federal government. And secondly, the ECP, like the Election Commission of Pakistan, there should be some legislation groups, religious groups, ethnic groups living together. But there is always issue of nation building by the state. They weren't able to make a nation because there was issue, conflict, and they were not able to bring all the people on the same table to discuss the issue. So what should be done by the government or the Election Commission of Pakistan? They should bound the political parties to give a certain number of seats or the tickets to the minority people to run election on behalf of these political parties. That will help to bring more representation in the parliament. And as I mentioned earlier, the state is the only actor. State means state are those people who are sitting in the parliament or sitting in the executive office or in the judiciary office. These are the people who run the state. So if there's a representation by the minorities, it will be heard and they will be part of the decision-making process, and their reservations, their feedback will be incorporated. Otherwise, the things will remain same. There will be no change until and unless we, being a minority community, come forward collectively, make something jointly to raise our voices, and then we can go. Then we can bring some change in country and protect our social right. In the society, if government makes some legislation in favor of the communities, the minorities communities, then there's a society who never implement it. There's a societal issue because there's a lot of disaggregation between the societies. And as I mentioned, that if you want to run a business, then they won't allow the people, the non-Muslim people, to run a business in a good way. The environment will not be very sporty, so they will face a lot of challenges. For example, as my other colleague or the expert from Bangladesh mentioned, the educational issues, they were not very people who are educated, and he was the one of them who got graduated. So look at this, he's graduated, and the issues that they are facing, and the same issues we are facing in Pakistan. Like, although we have a lot of Christian missionary schools, but the education, the literacy rate is very, very low in Christian minority. And the reason behind that, there's many reasons behind that. Like, we never promoted to bring the people on board. Like, the people, I'm really sorry to say, these Christian the Christian missionary schools are becoming the business hub just to earn the money, the profit, and not to look to the social issues of our community facing. We are very much famous being a Christian. You know, there's a lot of writing on the Christian. Contributed a lot during the partition, and also in education and in health particularly, they contributed a lot, because they prefer to be teachers, they prefer to be the nurses, and to the medical officers. So they contribute a lot in health and education. And until we contributed a lot in the education, but our people, our children are very, very much illiterate till now. They will never get an opportunity to get an education. And there's they're doing something for the Christian minorities, the religious minority, but it's not something that tackles the grassroots population, like the masses. The masses, the actual problem exists in the masses, in the slum areas where people are living. So people who are living outside of slums, they have a good opportunities. Sometimes they get an opportunities to interact with the good educational institute. But the people who are living in slums, they need to be considered. They need to be provided an opportunity. So they come out, they can get out from the sufferings they're having, and the problems that they're facing. And then the religious thing that is very sensitive in Pakistan. You cannot hide your religion. And if the very first question, if you meet somebody in public, and the very first question comes, what is your religion? That shouldn't be, the case. Like, the government should do something, that there should not be name of the religion on the passport or on the government application form. So, to avoid such issues, you can mitigate the consequences that happens when somebody know about your religion. And if you are from the low religion, there's no low religion, but in particular in terms of majority and minority, and then you face issues in your public life. If you are government employee, you face a lot of discrimination in your offices. If you are in education, university, so government should come forward, and the policymakers should come forward, and taking this opportunity through this platform, I would suggest to the policymaker to consider the minorities seats and the minorities opportunities in the parliament, the higher legislative bodies, where they can say their voices, they can say their concerns. So and then the real participation is very much important. Otherwise, the participation that we are having, the representation that we are having, it will have the same issue that we have been facing for the last few decades. And lastly, I'll conclude with the last point, that the government should, the social challenges always related to the political. If you are in the state affairs, then your voices can be heard, and your issues can be easily resolved. For example, the poverty, the civil society cannot alleviate the poverty. The government can do, because they have the resources, and they have they have the opportunities to run some program that helps to reduce the poverty. And the lastly, the women particularly, women is also the minority. They are lower, they are less in number as compared to the men in Pakistan or even in the world. So women, there's also reserved seats for women in the parliament, in the provincial assembly. But again, the seats should be inclusive. The women from minorities should also be considered while giving or allocating the seats, the reserved seats in all the legislative body. And then, the women can participate well. They enhance their issues as a woman and as also a minority woman. The minority women have more issues than majority women. So they can also be considered while doing the allocation of the seats. And again, there should be something that the woman should also get some ticket from the political party to run the election, to bring their voices into the mainstream politics. And the federal government, again, as I mentioned earlier, the federal government should keep monitoring the legislation that's happening at the provincial level. And if there's something that needs to be ruled over, they should come forward and provide the opportunities to tackle all the political and social issues. And there should be at the national level, from the minorities community, there should be working group. They should establish some working group. And there's some working group, but they're not working properly. They're not working appropriately. So there should be some real working group who raise the issues, who advocate with the government, and then provide the suggestion or provide the recommendations and the voices to the government. So the government can make a legislation as per the need of the community, as per the need of the minority. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. Once again, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm honored to be part of this panel. And once again, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Mr. Imran, and you are very much right. And thank you for sharing your views and important suggestions regarding the representation of religious minorities in government system of Pakistan. So thank you once again. Finally, to conclude the session, I would like to call Rimsha Shahid. She is serving as research analyst at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Over to you, Rimsha.
So before initiating the end note, I would like to thank all the panelists for sparing your prestigious time for sharing such remarkable views and opinions and for underlining socio-political disruption in the lives of minorities. While concluding the symposium, I would like to recall certain key points that has been discussed by our speakers. Firstly, Dr. Abhay Kumar, who discussed the plights of minorities in India and the dismal implications of Hindutva ideology on the lives of minorities. He said that the certain forces are creating fiction as anti-Muslim, anti-minority agenda is widely spread by them. And sadly, the media is biased in discussing the real picture of what indeed is happening. He further said that democracy cannot survive in the atmosphere of inequality. Discussion then followed by Ms. Sumitra Magrati, who shared her views on double-edged discrimination of women in South Asian region. Focusing on Nepal, she said that Nepal is a country of minority and they face various kinds of discrimination, specifically Nepali women. Despite having certain rules and laws, situation is still vulnerable for them as they are not granted their desired rights like land, property, education, and gender protection. And the state has failed in the provision of basic rights to vulnerable minorities. Our third speaker, Mr. Mohan Rabidas, shed light on the socio-political condition of Dalit community in Bangladesh. He discussed that Dalits are deprived of political rights and they don't have any representation in the very domain. While sharing his experience as a Dalit human rights defender, he highlighted the role and significance of human rights defender in uplifting the socio-political condition of minorities. Then the floor took over by Muhammad Asif Khan, who discussed about the ongoing menace in India against minority communities. While underlining the situation of Indian Muslims, he said that the reason behind such condition is the fascist ideology of influential people as they have constitution in their hands. He also quoted the incidents of Gujarat violence and Babri Masjid demolition as these were the extreme examples of anti-minority sentiment. And last, he also highlighted the ongoing propaganda against Muslims in terms of Naukri Jihad, bureaucracy jihad, and others as well to further persecute minorities. The fifth speaker, Ms. Vijeta Kumar, presented her views regarding the literature of minority, specifically Dalit community, and their standing in educational domain. Lastly, Mr. Imran Masih got the floor, who discussed the role of civil societies in ensuring the rights of minorities, be it ethnic or religious. He highlighted that despite Pakistan has the constitution that ensures equal rights for all, but still the condition is not very favorable for minorities, and one of the prime reasons is lack of political representation of them. So, this webinar aims to highlight the deprivation of socio-political rights of minorities in South Asia. In the contemporary world, minorities are the victims of political isolation and persecution in societies, and they are subjected to violence and discrimination. There are certain problems that are being incessantly faced by them, such as problem of identity, security, and equality, in almost every domain, be it civil, political, economic, social, or cultural. Thus, South Asia Research Institute for Minorities, owing to its very vision, undertakes the initiative to organize a webinar to explore the elements that subjugate and suppress minorities' political representation and social participation. SARIM always tries its best to highlight the alarming state of persecution of minorities, the deprivation of their basic rights, and to raise voice against discriminatory practices. And for that particular reason, we always try to engage with brilliant minds and to share their knowledge through our platform and help us in advancing this cause. I would again like to thank you all for sparing your precious time for this webinar. We hope that the collaboration will grow vigorously with you all. And last, I would like to thank Heman and Faiqa for managing the symposium in such an efficient way, and a big appreciation to the team of SARIM for making efforts in meeting our cause. Wish you all a good day and good luck for future endeavors. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.